Okay, we're going to finish up incident response video 3. I actually just recorded this lecture in under 10 minutes and took you to a website, and when it got all done, it was a little black dot with my voice. So I don't know. By the time I learn how to use online courses will be obsolete. We're talking about recovering reconstitution procedures. In my previous foray, I attempted to go the NIST SP 800-61 reversion 2. I showed you that if you Googled NIST SP incident response, please do this on your own, what you would get. The document is listed in this lecture. It will lead you through incident response process. It will give you what you need to know. It is a few years old. I believe there is work going on to create an incident response specifically for the OT environment. I could be wrong about that. But what we're talking about is, again, creating the plan, the schedule, and everything. And we're talking about recovering reconstitution. We're going to go, okay? So sometimes you can't recover. Sometimes you recover not by rebuilding and fixing your machines, as in Shamoon. You take them out in the desert, which I was told, 30,000 machines, a couple of guys with flamethrowers, to get rid of them. Because you can't reconstitute it. You start again. So you better have had your baseline in place, your backup in place. But you also want to talk about, after the incident, going back and figuring out, why did it happen? How did it happen? What was the target? So, as I said earlier, a key is external communications and internal communications. Communication within your team and what goes out to the world and the industry of what's going on. You need to recover your business functions. You need to restore services. This can be done in a number of ways. I'm just going to highlight some. But what you also need to remember is the reporting. You are going to have to create a report of the incident afterwards. It becomes part of corporate memory. It is lessons learned. It's how we're going to prevent this from happening again. It's a roadmap of actions. Part of it will be recommendations. Sometimes I've been in an incident, I thought that was very smart. They did an immediate follow-up and lessons learned, and then they waited 6 months and they went back to see if maybe they had distilled more information. Several years ago, I was part of a group that worked in San Antonio after the hurricanes. San Antonio wasn't affected, but they took in a large number of people from Katrina and Rita, two different sets of population. A lot of the people that came from Katrina never left. They assembled these churches, fire departments, police departments, emergency responders, not-for-profits, and they went back and said, let's capture lessons learned. What are some of the things that worked well? It was amazing to see that the community involvement that San Antonio had done. For instance, there was groups that came in that knew that there were people coming in with disabilities and they needed special care and attention, and they took that over. They had people who would show up who would cook for the fire departments, and first responders, because they were all busy taking care of these people. And then you have to stop and think, this is pertinent to incident response, those people that are the city or county employees that are acting as first responders and dealing directly with the incidents, their jobs still have to be done. So they had to backfill those jobs. I saw this again in Houston after Harvey, which sadly, while I sat on my front porch with flood water that was up to my thigh, lost my car, my house had water sitting in it. Within walking distance, a long walk, but I've made the walk, my Walgreens was looted. The windows were broken out, they looted it. We went through a period in Houston where when you went to Home Depot, there were police guarding the door. And the police were from Phoenix and from Dallas and from other cities because they had to come and backfill the HPD and the Harris County sheriffs who either were affected by the tragedy or were doing things with the catastrophe. And so you have this backfill operation. Same thing in San Antonio. You still have to, if somebody's house catches on fire, you can't say, oh, sorry, we can't respond because we're down taking care of Katrina folks. Same thing here. So you have all of this communication, lessons learned, and I was really moved when I attended this conference in San Antonio because I never would have thought of a lot of things that happened. They told the story that the guy even said a bunch of bubbas show up one day and they have a grill and they have all this meat and they're cooking for the firemen and first responders. Not the victims of Katrina, but the people who are working. And one day, and then they said, look guys, we're out. After 3 or 4 days, they said, we're broke. We've spent our money. We can't do it. And the fireman said, hold on there. We didn't know you were spending your own money. Here's money. Please, we need you to keep this going. We need those support services for ourselves so we can do our jobs. We don't tend to think of this as an incident response. We have to backfill positions. We have some people keeping operations, the fireman that has to respond to the house being on fire, but also the firemen and EMTs and paramedics who are dealing with the victims who have been temporarily housed. We don't think about this. We don't think about what stories being created. When you read here, when you do the follow-up lessons learned, if prosecution's going to happen, right? If the training material needs to be developed. And that's what this conference was from San Antonio. Let's capture the lessons learned. Let's figure out what we did right, what we did wrong, because San Antonio will, in fact, be used again. And what was interesting is when Katrina hit New Orleans, that is our appellate court for the 5th District of Texas, Louisiana, and I guess Mississippi. I think there's 3 states in the 5th appellate court. The court was wiped out. They moved the appellate court of the United States for the 5th Circuit to San Antonio. Now, what happened is they lost a lot of their staff. When they went back to New Orleans, a lot of the people did not go back. So again, we have to think of all these things that happen in an incident over time. So luckily for us in cybersecurity, we have standards and best practices. We're not fighting this alone. And I always say practice paranoia. Act as if you're in a state of compromise. Act as if there's always bad guys lurking. All right. We know security is not 100% secure. We know it can't be achieved 100%. So what do? You practice paranoia. I'm going to assume there's something going on I need to deal with. Okay. And then we're going to use the NIST standards. And I'm not going to try to go to another page using this software because God only knows who developed it, but we'll leave that on the table. But you have all these. And like I said, if you go Google NIST SP 800 incident response, you're going to come up with SP 800-61 revision 2. So you don't need to say, what was the number of that? Was it 161? Was it 61? Was it 70? 171? Was it 191? It's going to come up. And you're going to have all these other documents that's going to help you. And I'm not going to go through all of them. If you're interested, spend some time. This is a great resource. Now, you also have best practices from not only the Department of Justice. If an incident happens, depending on what the incident is, you might come under FTC Section 5 for personal identifying information. If you're part of a publicly traded company, you're going to come under the SEC. If you're a government agency, you're going to come over a lot of stuff, depending on what you're doing, maybe Homeland Security, maybe Department of Defense, whatever. There's a wealth of information out there to say this is your best practice during the incident, after the incident, and what you need to do. And you want to look for what's called indicators of compromise, artifacts left behind, okay? Big one is log data. We don't do enough of sophisticated, good data analytics on log data. And because of this, we get a lot of false positives or this or that. The fact of the matter is we need to figure out how to use log data for our advantage. So I'm not going to go through these. I've left the slides in. This is a lot of information. I do suggest we talk about MITRE, M-I-T-R-E. Again, another good, it's not a company, it's not government. I'm not sure how you classify MITRE. It's not for profit. It's like a think tank. It's like RAND used to be. But talks about develop information sharing standards. All of this is information that's free. That's out there. It's not free. We as taxpayers are paid for it. And we have to highlight again that the current cyber attacks are very sophisticated. What they're trying to do is, hey, how can I find that one weak link in a chain so I can disrupt some operations, right? We use it and it's used against us. All right, let's just leave it at that. I think it was a concept originally articulated by Lockheed Martin, but we can plan specific interventions. So we can actually kill off an attack by looking at the cyber kill chain. Okay, we see an attack going on. If we break this step, this is going to kill it. MITRE is what I talked about, trying to make security measurable. Take some time, look through this. Again, I'm not going to go through all these. It's not going to be on your test. If you were doing Security Plus, you may have to learn it. I think I've said this before. We're using 4th edition of the book. 5th edition came out in June. and they've apparently eliminated some of the more overly burdensome technical details. I don't know how much of this stuff's still in that, but if you're interested, I would definitely say prepare for the Security Plus exam. Let's see what else we need to do. I think that's it. Oh my gosh, it came in at 10 minutes and I didn't even get to go show you NIST SP 800-161. That concludes Chapter 23. Thank you.